Everyone, welcome to A4E. I'm Jennifer Jansen, Communications Director. Welcome, glad you all could make it. We're going to get started with Thomas Reynaert, our Managing Director, who will be followed by Kenton Jarvis, the CEO of TUI Aviation, our newest A4E member. Big welcome to TUI today. And last but not least, Michael will speak third. Following that, we'll do a brief Q&A. So without further ado, I will get started with Thomas.
Thank you very much. I'll need a mic. Good afternoon. I think afternoon, everyone. Welcome to A4E. Earlier today, the A4E CEOs met with the new EU Transport Commissioner, Madame Valean. It was very good looking into Michael and Kenton because they were also present in the meeting. It was a very good first meeting, very positive, I believe. We exchanged some interesting views. I'll explain a little bit about this later on. But before I go to that, sitting to my right is Kenton Jarvis, the CEO of TUI Aviation. And I'm very pleased to officially welcome to today's A4E event our newest member. Welcome, Kenton. TUI joins the other 15 airlines and airline groups since we were founded in 2016. Now we're being told, and we've calculated, more than 35 different airline brands, including TUI, are now part of the A4E family, making us the leading commercial airline association in Europe, with a unique profile uniting both the network and low-cost carriers models, but also including cargo and leisure. And now, of course, joined by the largest tourism group, TUI. We look forward to hearing more from Kenton shortly on how TUI will strengthen A4E's advocacy efforts. Now, during our meeting with Commissioner Valean, the CEOs, and there were about 7 CEOs of us around the table. We laid out European aviation's most pressing priorities and our expectations for the new Commission. As you probably know, the new Commissioner is just in office, was just voted in. So for her it was I believe, an interesting encounter with the aviation industry. A couple of points we discussed. One is the close collaboration with industry on climate change goals, which the Commissioner believed also was very important. Secondly, incentives and investments for sustainable aviation and sustainable investments overall, including electric propulsion and other low-carbon engine alternatives instead of new taxes on aviation, topic we, of course, also discussed with the Commission. Next point we discussed was the urgent reform of Europe's outdated air traffic management system, ATM. Many of you know it with the wonderful name of Single European Sky, which should reduce Europe's carbon emissions up to 10%. So we have a very strong environmental argument next to the efficient flying, cost-efficient flying. Also, Single European Sky is also good for the environment. So we have asked the European Commissioner, we've offered our support, how we can work with her with certain member states on Single European Sky to get the ball really rolling. And then last but not least, we did mention the revision of EU 261, the passenger rights regulation, which needs to be moving forward by this Commission as well. We've said this before, and I'll repeat it here again. Those member states, those countries who are currently supporting new taxes on airlines for so-called environmental purposes should first and foremost implement the Single European Sky. And interesting enough, we've seen it again, was it last week, 2nd of December, it's exactly those member states that are blocking the continuation of Single European Sky and at the same time raising taxes for so-called environmental reasons in their own countries. Airlines and the wider aviation industry have been in the spotlight lately. You are all from the media, so you are partly responsible for doing that. Thank you very much. But it's been argued many times that we're not doing enough to address the climate change crisis, and for not doing enough to talk about all the positive ways we are contributing, how we are contributing to that environment. Well, that's changing here and now, and also after our meeting with the European Commissioner. During the last months, A4E has been leading the development of a cross-sector climate initiative together with Europe's airlines, airports, manufacturers, and air navigation service providers. We refer to this project, and I'm sure you will hear about this more in the next couple of weeks, our Sustainable Aviation Roadmap for Europe. And it will contribute to the Commission's Green Deal strategy, which I think officially is announced tomorrow, by identifying ourselves even better ways for our industry to decarbonize, whether it be through technology, operations, sustainable fuels, or price incentives by 2030 and by 2050. We plan on finalizing this roadmap together with our partners, the ones I just mentioned, by the first half of next year, and we have also briefed the Commissioner and her team in this respect on this industry initiative. We look forward to working in partnership with the Commissioner and her team to jointly define the best investment and regulatory framework required to support aviation in addressing the climate change challenge. And it's only in partnership really, because the problem is hugely complex, fighting a common enemy called CO2 emissions, that we can be successful in fulfilling Europe's climate ambitions. With that, I pass the mic literally to Kenton.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Yes, there's going to be some slides. Sorry about that. Well, I'm very pleased to be joining Airlines for Europe on behalf of TUI, and we look forward to working with the Airlines for Europe group. I just thought I'd introduce TUI. We have 5 European airlines, so I thought I would take the opportunity to talk about the TUI group. As a group, we're quite a big group. We've got turnovers of about 20 billion. And the group is split into the markets and airline side, which is like the distribution part of TUI, and then the content part of TUI, where we have over 380 hotels, we have 17 cruise ships, and we have operations in destination services in nearly 50 countries around the world. We go on to the next slide. This is where our fleet of aircraft are. We have 63 aircraft in the UK, and we're adding to that as we speak. 9 in Holland. We have a good sized airline in Belgium, and then also in Sweden and in Germany we have airlines. And from a fleet perspective, we've got 25 long haul aircraft. We're rolling those over into the Dreamliners. We've got 19 Dreamliners now. Another one coming at the end of 2020. And then from a short and mid-haul perspective, we have the 737NGs and 757s, and again we're rolling those over into the MAX aircraft when it flies again. And we have a big order book of Boeing MAX to come through, which from a fuel efficiency, because we ran them for a year before they were grounded, we found them to be very fuel efficient. From a destination perspective, TUI operates to leisure destinations. We're a leisure airline, and we go to holiday destinations. That means principally in the Mediterranean, where we go to Spain or Greece, Turkey, Cyprus. Canaries is a year-round destination for us. Cape Verde is doing particularly well, about an hour south of the Canaries, and we're growing in Cape Verde. And then from a long-haul perspective, we have Mexico and the Caribbean, where we also have our cruise ships, and Southeast Asia as well, where our cruise ships go. So we very much support the hotel infrastructure and the cruise infrastructure with the destinations we fly to. A little bit about the airlines at TUI. Because we're leisure airlines, we kind of build on 3 strategic imperatives. You won't be surprised to see customer and cost. I think you'd see that for every airline. Obviously, we need to leverage the synergies of having the 5 airlines, and we do a lot of things in common now. So we do all the engineering and maintenance, the in-flight supply chain, we do procurement, we're harmonising our IT landscape. But flexibility is one of the big things for us, because as a leisure airline, we have much more demand in the summer clearly than we have in the winter, and we have to adapt our flight schedules for that and work out what to do with the aircraft in the winter. We have about 20 aircraft going to North America and Canada. And then from a flexibility point of view as well, because this is people's holidays, that they're going on holiday with us, it's a very important flight for them. It's not the next flight to Brussels. And therefore, we never cancel holidays, and that is, we never cancel our flights or do our utmost not to cancel our flights. And therefore, with the current environment of air traffic control strikes, we've seen security strikes in Germany, ground handling strikes in Belgium, drone attacks in the UK. We have to be very flexible to bring our customers onto their holidays, because that's very important. And also because we're vertically integrated, it's in our interest to have that profit. And then you won't be surprised to see sustainability as a core part of what we're thinking about now. We've made a huge investment in aircraft. In 2018, the Atmosphere Awards placed the UK airline for TUI as the #1 amongst all the global airlines. I think for 2019, our carbon emission is 65.2 grams, which is very competitive. It will be one of the lower airlines in Europe. And that's because, much like Reynaert, we have very high load factors and a young fleet. On the next slide, this underlines the importance of tourism. Clearly, we're a touristic group, and therefore we play an important role of tourism. We have 70,000 employees that are based across a vast majority of both our source markets and our destinations, and we get to see firsthand the benefits that tourism brings economies, especially those in southern Europe and the rest of the world, where tourism is an important part of the economy, both in terms of job creation, GDP, but it's also a very fast and resilient growing industry. So we're very pleased to be part of this global industry. And finally, this is just an example of what can happen when taxes are put down in a unilateral manner. We do face tax burdens. We've got air passenger duty in the UK, and in Germany we're seeing an increase in air traffic taxes coming in April. They're going up about 77% in Europe, but we have some anomalies because they're not really aligned with sustainability. So for instance, from Munich there you can see that if you go to Tenerife it's 3,300 kilometres, if you go to Hurghada it's 3,000 kilometres, but despite the fact that Hurghada is 300 kilometres closer, we're going to be paying a tax that's nearly 20 euros per passenger more expensive. And that will have quite an unintended consequence into a country that's very dependent on tourism. So we have to be responsible in the way that we approach tourism, both from an environmental and an economic perspective as well. So yeah, very much looking forward to being part of Airlines for Europe, joining in the conversation on all the important policy issues and hopefully lending a touristic perspective to them. And now I'll hand over to Michael.